First on Our News Live at 7, the death of a 1-year-old and his father garnering public attention and outcry. Tonight, the police commissioner says they've located the boy's mother. Plus, your arrest could equal points for officers. The country's top cop explains the leak of a point-based competition and why the system will remain in place. Then, skyrocketing boating fees, a major concern for Family Island residents. A chief counselor from the boating capital explains why they're not happy with the price hike. And then in our news at 7:30, jackpot or not, Bahamians weigh in on the right to gamble in casinos. Here are the results of a newly released poll. Our News Live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Megan Shepard. A day after the tragic and strange events surrounding the deaths of a father and his 1-year-old son, police say they've located the child's mother. The landlord and his 22-month-old son died at 12:30 yesterday morning after neighbors say the man attacked his tenants in the middle of the night and ran from officers when they responded to the scene. Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernander.
They were so saddened with the young child yesterday at Family Street. That man is very much active. We have located the parents, the mother of that young child, and we are speaking to her at this time. We are still putting the pieces together. We're still putting the pieces, and we will be able to bring the public up to date as to the end of the conclusion of our investigation.
The Commissioner of Police also defending the point-based performance competition that has garnered a lot of attention since being leaked in recent days. Outside of the Bahamas Department of Corrections Probation Symposium this morning, he addressed the mystery leak and the purpose of the competition. Our Marlena Leonard reports.
It's the devil who stepped in and tried to turn something good into bad. Only the devil, but we'll pray that devil away.
Police Commissioner Clayton Fernander is condemning the person who leaked a breakdown of a police performance competition called Operation Teams, where 4 teams would collect points based on things like arrests, drug seizures, tickets, and search warrants. While some have questioned what may be seen as the gamification of law enforcement, Fernander is defending the incentive program.
First of all, I don't know how that document got out, and that's what we are trying to find out. This is an in-house friendly competition. It's not uncommon throughout the world in forces where we honor officers for good work.
Fernander says the performance competition is meant to encourage officers, and he says the evidence can be seen on the streets.
We encourage officers to go above and beyond. We show up every day to ensure that the Bahamian people and visitors come to our shore is safe. And that will not deter us with respect to our mandate. You can see the results out there. We are recovering firearms. We are making arrests. You will see a number of vehicles out there in saturation in high crime areas. You see the vehicles because you approach me about it. And we will continue to do that to ensure that the Bahamian people is safe.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena. A stabbing landing a 16-year-old high school student in the hospital. Police say just after 4 p.m. on Monday. The victim was involved in a physical altercation with another male student near a bus stop on Marathon Road. While the two were fighting, police say another male jumped in, pulled out a knife, and stabbed the victim in the leg and lower back. The student was transported to the hospital in a private vehicle where he is listed in stable condition. The trial of a man accused of threatening to kill Prime Minister Philip Davis got underway in the magistrate's court today. Isaac Roberts was arrested and charged after he allegedly made threatening calls to the Central Police Station on February 8th. Constable 4058 Maycock said he was on duty at the station when he answered the phone around 8:20 a.m. A man on the line asked if Coalition of Independence leader Lincoln Bain was still in custody. When Maycock asked who was calling, the man hung up. But Maycock said the same man called back a few minutes later and delivered the menacing message. Officers from the Criminal Investigation Department were called in and began investigations. Inspector Demetrius Taylor said that Roberts was arrested around 2 p.m. based on information received from Alive and BTC. Taylor said that Roberts admitted to calling the station twice. According to Taylor, Roberts admitted to saying, "Release Lincoln Bain or Brave Davis gone." The case continues before Acting Chief Magistrate Roberto Reckley in November. While boaters in the Family Islands not too happy about a major jump in boat licensing fees. In a one-on-one with our Jamila Mizik, the Hopetown Abaco Chief Counselor tells us that the fees are affecting livelihoods.
Imagine paying less than $50 to license your boat to having to pay more than $700. That's the plight of boaters in the Family Islands who say the new fees are just too costly. Chief Counselor for the Hopetown District Council, Jeremy Sweeting, telling our news that previously the licensing fee for a 20-foot boat was $20, but now that number has skyrocketed to $775, including an inspection fee. It's a jump, he says, most boaters are not too happy about.
Originally, it was, I think, contemplated about going with the 20-foot boat to $68, which I think was more reasonable, even though that's an increase of 300%. I think people would have accepted that, but to go up to $775, an increase of over 3,000%, I think it is. It's a bit much, more than a bit much. It's really ridiculous.
And with no reason given for the price hike, Sweeting says it is affecting their business.
Crawfishing, for instance, I know I've spoken with many crawfishermen. Some crawfishermen, they just didn't pay. They just felt like it was outrageous. Some who could afford to pay paid because they didn't want to get stopped by the defense force, while they're out on the high seas, on their crawfishing trip. They didn't want that to happen, so they went ahead and paid, even though they wasn't happy with it. So they're hoping that they can get reimbursed or get a credit if this gets ironed out.
The Chief Counselor says after consulting with the boating community, they have come up with recommendations and are hopeful that the exorbitantly high fees will be lowered sooner rather than later.
And most of what has come back has been, persons are willing to pay more than the $20, but they, want to pay a reasonable amount.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
Well, it's time now for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg, from the high seas to the Weather Center, what can we look forward to this evening?
Hope not those expensive boat fees.
Hope not.
Yeah, but we are still experiencing some swells from Lee. Lee is still out there to the east of us. It's continuing to move towards the north, but we're starting to see some swells in the Luther area. I saw some footage earlier, and some of those waves are now battering the glass window bridge, but hopefully it won't get too bad, but we do expect some more waves out there. Beautiful day around the islands. Once again, 85 degrees outside our studios, few clouds, your winds out of the north. We did have a small shower in my location earlier this evening. Feels like temperature still in the 90s right now. Temperatures around the islands, it is 84 in Freeport, Marsh Harbor, Abaco, and in Governor's Harbor. 86 is in Allenstown, Bimini, and Nicholstown. Great Harbor Key, you guys are 85. 85 also in Kemps Bay, Georgetown, and Deadman's Key. 84 in Arthurstown, Cat Island, Coopertown, San Salvador, 83. And in the southeast Bahamas, temperatures basically in the mid-80s there. 86 is Duncantown, Ragged Island, and Provo. 85 is Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, Delectable Bay, Abrams Bay, and Deep South, Matthewtown, Renagua. They all are at 85. Taking a look at our satellite, Lee is still churning out there. Winds have come down. It's now down to 105 miles per hour and will continue to stay that way for the next couple of days. It's now moving towards the north, so it's taking that northerly track right now. It will continue to remain a hurricane as it continues to move towards the north. And of course, as I mentioned, we're still starting to see those waves and those swells affecting the islands. We were expecting some more significant wave, but a lot of those waves are still affecting portions of the islands. And as Lee moves away, those waves actually will continue to weaken. What's steering Lee, the high pressure system out in the open Atlantic, that will slide off towards the east. That will allow a window for Lee to move towards the north. and Lee is expected to move into the Canadian Maritimes by the weekend. That's a look at our weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, hospitality on display as the First Lady of Botswana has an authentic Bahamian experience during her official visit. Plus, BTVI set to get a $1.6 million boost. A contract signing on Grand Bahama signifies major things to come for the second city. And later, the reigning John Canoe champs receiving a much-needed financial boost. That's coming up when our news returns.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just go squeeze there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Botswana's First Lady, Neo Masisi, touring the Nassau cruise port today, getting a first-hand look at Bahamian artwork. She even got a Bahamian handmade bag personally crafted by an inmate. At the end of the tour, she had this to say.
I was very impressed by the local vendors, the fact that it's work done by real people, real women, our women. You know, it makes me think of our own women back home. I'm taking back so many ideas from this short experience. And like she said, my idea is let's make the story wider. I see the lovely wares, high quality wares, and I take it that they're high demand.
The tour was led by State Minister for Housing and Urban Renewal, Lisa Ramming. During the state visit, she said it was important that they get to see a part of Bahamian culture.
We just want her to experience the local side of us rather than everything just being state. So she's feeling the local and she's seeing all the tourists. And of course, she indicated to us that they don't get to see us much. So she's excited for this opportunity.
The Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute signing a contract with the Ministry of Education to enhance the tertiary institution. Minister for Grand Bahama, Ginger Moxie, says the move signifies the further resurgence of Grand Bahama post-Hurricane Dorian and the pandemic. Moxie says the $1.6 million contract through the support of the Caribbean Development Bank will have a profound impact on education and the island.
I am told that this contract covers repairs to your administrative offices, the electronics lab, electrical engineering lab, and welding lab, with a view to expand your space and equipment shortly. And so much work has already been done, and I just want to applaud Patrick McDonald and his team for the tremendous work that I see. I commend your efforts thus far, and I want to challenge you to become the regional leaders for technology training. I know that we can do it. The vision for Grand Bahama Island is to become the home of innovation, and my ministry is diligently working to accomplish this goal.
Education Minister Glenys Hannah Martin also in hand for the contract signing.
Building capacity in our people so they are able, and particularly those who are inclined in technical and vocational, and to build capacity to create opportunity for young people to be able to go out in their own businesses or to be competitive in their skill set is an empowerment level that is very rarely seen, even in the academic world. And so this particular facility is going to have so much meaning for building confidence.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world, as 5,000 people are dead and thousands more missing in Libya. Plus, find out how special mosquitoes are being bred to fight dengue fever in Honduras, as that country continues to fight outbreaks year after year. And from the region, a missing medical student. Grenadian police say the 35-year-old has not been seen in days. We have the details when our news returns.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay, so you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those trees there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP-1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation.
This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. 5,000 people are feared dead and 10,000 people are missing following floods that wiped out a quarter of Libya's eastern city of Derna after dams burst in a storm. Lauren Anthony reports.
In the city of Derna in eastern Libya, there is damage and rubble as far as the eye can see. The area's local administration says flooding has wiped out a quarter of the city after dams burst in a huge storm. The Red Cross believes some 10,000 people are feared missing across the country. Storm Daniel barreled across the Mediterranean into a country crumbling from more than a decade of conflict. Over 1,000 bodies have already been recovered in Derna alone. Here's the head of the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Society's delegation in Libya, Tamer Ramadan.
Our teams on the ground are still doing their assessment, but from what we see and from the news coming to us, the death toll is huge. It might reach 2,000, really.
A Reuters journalist on the way to Derna saw vehicles overturned on the edges of roads, trees knocked down, and abandoned flooded houses. One local official said what he saw there was disastrous and that bodies are lying everywhere. This man says the flood comes every year, but this time is worse. He says people have been on the streets since yesterday. Derna is bisected by a seasonal river that flows from highlands to the south. It's normally protected from flooding by dams, as seen in this satellite imagery. But video posted on social media shows the remnants of a collapsed dam 7 miles upstream of the city where the two river valleys converged. Now it's surrounded by huge pools of mud-coloured water. Convoys of aid and assistance were heading towards Derna and also Al Badia, which is around 62 miles away. Turkey and other countries rushed to send support to Libya, including search and rescue vehicles, rescue boats, generators, and food.
The United States Department of Justice argued that Google did not play by the rules in its efforts to keep its dominance in online searches. Google is accused of paying billions of dollars annually to device makers like Apple, wireless companies like AT&T, and browser makers like Mozilla to keep Google's search engine on top. Google is facing trial over whether it is a monopoly. The trial began opening arguments on Tuesday before a packed federal court in Washington, D.C., and is expected to run up to 10 weeks. Apple must stop selling its iPhone 12 model in France due to above-threshold radiation levels. France's radiation watchdog ANFR notified Apple of its decision to ban iPhone 12 sales after it had carried out tests that showed the smartphone's specific absorption rate was slightly higher than legally allowed. French officials say a software update would be sufficient to fix the radiation issues linked to the phone, which the U.S. company has been selling since 2020. The French watchdog will now pass on its findings to regulators in other EU member states. A convicted murderer who escaped from a Pennsylvania jail was recaptured after eluding an expanding manhunt for 2 weeks and unnerving residents in the suburbs west of Philadelphia. 34-year-old Daniello Cavalcante broke out of Chester County Prison, about 30 miles west of Philadelphia, on August 31st by climbing between two walls that formed a narrow corridor in the jailhouse yard and scrambled onto the roof. Authorities holding a press conference announcing his capture this morning.
Tactical teams converged on the area where the heat source was. They were able to move in very quietly. They had the element of surprise. Cavalcante did not realize he was surrounded until that had occurred. That did not stop him from trying to escape. He began to crawl through thick underbrush, taking his rifle with him as he went. One of the Customs and Border Control teams, BORTAC, had a dog with them. They released the dog. Some of our PSP CERT members were also there, had him surrounded. The dog subdued him, and team members from both of those teams immediately moved.
Thank God there were no injuries to law enforcement or to the public. We obviously became deeply concerned after the suspect was able to steal a weapon. He was apprehended this morning with no shots fired.
Meantime, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director signing off on the broad use of updated COVID-19 vaccines, covering ages 6 months and up. The final recommendation comes after a panel of advisors to the agency voted 13-1 to recommend the shots made by Pfizer and partner BioNTech, as well as Moderna. They did not choose to target the shots at specific high-risk populations, as some experts have suggested and other countries have recommended. The shots are part of a push by public health officials to align the next COVID vaccines more closely with the actual circulating variant of the virus, much as annual flu shots are designed. Special mosquitoes are being bred in Honduras to fight dengue fever. The Honduran Ministry of Health, the World Mosquito Program, and the National Autonomous University of Honduras are partnering with local communities to implement innovative public health strategies to reduce not only dengue, but also Zika and chikungunya. A part of the program includes releasing Aedes aegypti mosquitoes carrying a natural bacteria, which reduces mosquitoes' ability to transmit airborne viruses. Dengue fever has become a pressing problem for Honduras in recent years, where more than 10,000 people are known to be sickened by dengue each year. A 35-year-old Canadian medical student has been reported missing in Grenada. The Royal Grenada Police Force releasing a statement indicating that it is seeking the public's assistance in locating 35-year-old Liam Fisher, who is a medical student at St. George's University, residing at True Blue, St. George. Fisher was last seen on Saturday, September 9th, attending the Grenada Hash House Harriers run from the Marion playing field. St. George's University issuing a statement saying SGU's Department of Public Safety and the Office of the Dean of Students are working closely with the Royal Grenada Police Force. Still to come in our news. Today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was September 13th. And then in our news at 7:30, a viral video update. The Commissioner of Police tells us the latest on the officer caught on camera hitting a student. And the Bahamas Christian Council calls for community intervention. It's all hands on deck to prevent crime in the country. Those stories and more when our news returns.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. Shita, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those trees there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP-1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it, a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
Welcome back to our news. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was September 13th. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, on the 13th of September 1922, Louis George Adams Sr. was born in Nassau, Bahamas. Adams was a legendary Bahamian trumpeter, singer, conductor, and entertainer. He founded the Lou Adams Orchestra, which performed at many of the high-profile hotels and clubs in the Bahamas and internationally, including the Lyford Key Club. Adams passed away on April 25, 2017, in Nassau, Bahamas, at the age of 94. Then in 1944, the United States naval vessel USS Warrington DD-383 sank as a result of a hurricane of 175 nautical miles east-southeast of Great Abaco, Bahama Islands. The ship was on its way from Norfolk, Virginia, to Trinidad when it was caught in the storm. Rescue ships were sent to assist the distressed vessel. Only 5 officers and 68 men of the destroyer's 20 officers and 301 men. And in 2019, Tropical Storm Humberto affected the central and northwest Bahamas. No loss of life was caused. However, it did affect rescue and emergency services on islands that had been devastated by Hurricane Dorian just 2 weeks prior. One family, the reigning Boxing Day and New Year's Day Junkanoo champions, getting a much-needed boost from their longtime sponsor, Sunshine Insurance. One family chairman, Christina Fernander.
To come here and see that the sponsorship has increased, it's very great for the organization. It means a lot to us, knowing that coming off the heels of COVID and everything, the price of materials to do what we do on Bay Street has increased tremendously because of the shipping crisis.
Sunshine Insurance President Paul McWeeny says it's vital for the iconic cultural parade to have the support.
It's important for everybody to do so, not just Sunshine Insurance. We're fortunate to be in a position to do so, right? But Junkanoo is the most precious expression of our culture. And I think we all have a duty and responsibility to ensure that it's promoted adequately, it gets the amount of prominence it deserves, and we all can participate and learn from it and also be a part of it. So I think it's a natural fit for our organization. And certainly our chairman, Sir Franklin, is huge on culture. Everything is culture to him. And so we have a sister company that also supports another juggling group, right? They might want to call, but certainly culture is embedded in the entire Sunshine family group.
Now to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for Our News Live at 7. Joining us now is our Talia Hall with the latest headlines.
Yes, Megan, thanks so much. Well, should Bahamians be allowed to gamble in casinos in country? We'll tell you all about a recent survey, and a young Grand Bahamian man is in need of help. Here are your latest headlines. Casino gambling or no gambling? First tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. That's the question put to Bahamians during a recent survey. We have the full statistics coming up. Also, a video with a police officer roughing up a school student has gone viral, and the nation's top cop is responding to the issue. Plus, an intervention. The Bahamas Christian Council president says it's time to step in. His comments come following news of the bizarre death of a father and son in the capital. And later, this young man from Grand Bahama is in need of your help tonight.
They told me that I have ankylosing spondylitis. That's like a disease, like it would attack all the joints and cause you to stiffen up.
We have his story when Our News Live at 7:30 returns.
Doctors Hospital is reimagined primary care. We have invested to improve our health system, ensuring that accessible, affordable, world-class clinical care is closer to you. Your relationship with a primary care provider shapes the foundation of your overall health. Our new, modern primary care facilities are where critical diagnosis and true personalized treatment begin. With locations across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Exuma, we invite you to experience the Doctors Hospital difference. Book your next appointment at clinics.doctorshos.com.
Collect Verse access is as easy as grab a collect, scan a collect. Open your camera app, focus on the QR code, and click the link that appears. You own your Collect Verse experience. Take selfies, join the cultural referendum, and share with your friends. See content from local chefs, Olympic athletes, and cultural icons. Collect is proud to be 50. Grab a collect, scan a collect. Get in the Collect Verse today.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. So you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those trees there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. Another public domain survey revealing Bahamians want to be allowed to gamble in casinos. This is many say the current laws banning Bahamians from casino gambling are discriminatory. Bertha McDermott has the report.
Bahamian market research and strategy firm Public Domain revealing that 66% of Bahamians feel they should be allowed to gamble in casinos. When broken down by gender, the survey reveals 69% of male respondents and 64% of females think Bahamians should be allowed to gamble in casinos. The Public Domain poll surveyed 791 people throughout the Bahamas using a random digit dialing methodology. Additionally, 74% of respondents between the ages of 18 and 34 have the highest yes response of 74%. 46% of respondents 55 and over responded yes. Back in January 2013, the then Christie administration held a gambling referendum. Voters overwhelmingly voted against the measures, but the then government ignored the results and regulated web shops anyway. Back in May, Deputy Prime Minister and Tourism Minister Chester Cooper said the conversation is ongoing between the gaming board and the industry, adding there will be broad-based consultation on the matter. However, he says the matter isn't before Cabinet yet. said. In 2013, then minister responsible for gaming, Obi Wilchem, said the policy would need to be carefully examined before any changes are made because there are social and economic considerations. He said the restrictions are the best compromise for a tourism destination and a country that has strong opposition from Bahamians participating, particularly the church. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, thanks, Berthany. After a viral video involving a police officer and a male student sparked outrage online, Police Commissioner Clayton Fernandez says the situation is under investigation. As for the officer in question, Fernandez says,
no, he is not on leave. Based on the investigation, a decision will be made. That matter is under active investigation. I have instructed my Deputy Commissioner, Mr. Delvo, who is in charge of discipline. I want that matter to move through swiftly, and where the chips fall, it will fall.
When asked if the Royal Bahamas Police Force officers undergo training on how to handle juveniles, Fernandez had this response.
We have lectures out at our division. The commanders speak to officers even before they go out on the streets to execute their duties. We have a briefing, and the commanders and whoever's in charge of the guard, they usually remind the officers of code of ethics as they go there and to communicate with the public. We don't want to divide with the public. The public is our ears and eyes out there. We want to bridge the gap with our Bahamian people.
All right, while a man accused of a deadly crime spree remains behind bars without bail, a Supreme Court judge has rejected a bail bid by Leroy Estime, who's been in jail since July 17th. He's facing charges of murder, attempted murder, and armed robbery. Prosecutors say Estime and another man shot and killed a man during an attempted robbery on January 25th. He's also accused of robbing two men in the domestic parking lot of the Lyndon Pinling International Airport. Prosecutors further say that Estime and another man entered a woman's dumping ground corner home and robbed her of $4,000 while posing as policemen on June 20th. Well, in the wake of the bizarre death of a father and son on Family Street, Bahamas Christian Council President Delton Fernandez is speaking out, speaking not only as a pastor, but a father. Fernandez is appealing to families in the community to hold each other accountable and to be our brother's keeper.
Do your very best to intervene when it appears that those around you are not acting in the fashions that are normal. It's now time for us to intervene and not sit back. If you see something, do something. And if you see erratic behavior, if you see somebody that is not in the normal scheme of things, if you need counseling, if you need an opportunity to break away, if you are asking for the church, take them to church. If you're asking for an opportunity to pray, take them to your pastor to pray.
Now, oftentimes, the council is accused of not stepping up when major incidents that affect the community occur. Fernandez is hitting back against that idea.
But don't assume, because I'm not in front of a camera, we're not working. Pastors pastor in communities. Even when the cameras are off, somebody has to go to this house. Someone has to pray the family. That has already taken place. Please, I know we want someone to villainize. The church is not that one. We feed the hungry, we care for the sick, we bury the dead, we christen you, we bury you. At some point you have to realize this is for real. We do this every day, and we do it in the name of Christ, not for television.
All right, we're halfway through the work week, and temperatures are continuing to soar. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with a first look at weather. Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Catalina. Yeah, well, soar back into the triple digits for our heat indices, and temperatures managing to get into the low 90s, not really into the mid 90s. But it was a beautiful day across the islands, 84 degrees outside our studios right now. Your winds out of the north at 9 miles per hour. It was a little breezy today, so it felt comfortable. But the feels like temperature right now is at 94. Lee is still to the east of us, churning out there. Still a powerful hurricane, 105 mile per hour winds. Will continue that trek towards the north, but the tight pressure gradient between that and a high pressure over us, keeping us a little breezy. That breeze will fall off a little bit as Lee continues to move away from us, but swell starting to affect the islands. And of course, Lee, as I mentioned earlier in the newscast, is going to take that north track Still a Category 2 storm, but by Friday we expect it to weaken further to a Category 1, and as it pushes towards the north, it's going to run into the Canadian Maritimes and weaken even still. That's a quick check on Lee and a look at conditions around the island. Stick with us. We'll tell you more about what's happening in the tropics later on in Newscast.
Coming up on our news, hear about plans for the Nassau cruise port as we head into the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. A top executive speaks. Also, building a stronger bond. This as the Bahamas and the Republic of Botswana sign a memorandum of understanding. And Women in Power. Our Sasha Lightborn continues the series tonight, highlighting JoBeth Colby-Davis when our news continues.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it, a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
Don't spend hours sending individual messages to your customers. Use SMS messaging instead. With Cable Bahamas Business Solutions SMS messaging, you can send personalized messages to hundreds or even thousands of recipients instantly. It's quick, effortless, and cost-effective. Plus, it ensures that your messages are delivered directly to your customers' cellular phones, guaranteeing higher engagement. Save time and boost your outreach with SMS bulk messaging. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having Business in a Box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves on.
As we head into the active parts of the hurricane season, Nassau Cruise Port Chief Executive Officer Mike Mara says there's a plan for the newly built facility. He says the cruise port was built to sustain Category 5 conditions. He says the main concern will be sea surges.
Fortunately, I think that what would happen is if we did have a surge here, the fact is water may enter, but then water is going to, drink. We're so close to the ocean that it's not going to get trapped within the cruise port, which is obviously a good thing. Coincidentally, we have a hurricane planning meeting tomorrow morning at 9 as a team, and what we do is we go through everything from, tenant communications and what happens at the 96-hour mark, the 72-hour mark, the 48-hour mark, the 24-hour mark.
Now, the Bahamas has not seen any major hurricane since Hurricane Dorian back in 2019, which ravaged parts of Abaco and Grand Bahama. Mara says now immediately following a storm, officials will have to move to get the port reopened as quickly as possible.
The planes and the ships are literally following the storm, right? And it's a matter of hours almost after that storm has passed where they're knocking at your door. Can we come, because they're trying to get back in business and so forth. So we have a very extensive plan.
Strengthening ties, the Bahamas and the Republic of Botswana signing a memorandum of understanding on political consultations today. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell hosting Botswana Foreign Affairs Minister.
We have a lot of synergies and pathologies together as countries,
And one of the aspects of this moving forward is to sign this memorandum of understanding because it sets the framework for our cooperation going forward. We have a similar agreement with the Republic of South Africa, and it is the intention of our government to have a total outreach to Africa, who we consider our kith and kin.
Botswana Foreign Affairs Minister noting this visit is to cement the foundation already laid between the two nations, adding that they've set out many areas of collaboration, including tourism and improving the financial services sector.
We also interest you in what we do, and we do best, diamonds. And the ladies should be excited that Botswana is the #1 producer of diamond by value. So we want to open up markets in the Caribbean, so in the Bahamas, so that you can enjoy the resources that your forefathers bequeathed to us. We only hold them in trust, and our signing of the MOU today really it signifies the future.
She's the youngest and only woman with a double portfolio in cabinet. Our series on the PLP's Women in Power continues tonight with Jobeth Colby-Davis with this report from our Sasha Lightborn. Let's take a look.
The now former Transport and Housing Minister Jobeth Colby-Davis didn't hold back about her second year in office. In fact, she described it as one of the most challenging.
So it has been extremely challenging, but very fulfilling, and it's made me find a new love for transport, because coming into the ministry, I was first more in love with the work of housing. A lot of what we do internally take a while before we can actually bring it forward to the public, because there's so much internal workings, different departments and ministries that have to be on board or at least at the table.
And with so much on her plate, I asked simply, how is she managing?
I'm doing well. It's been a long and hard run for the last 2 years, because all of it has been new. I've been focusing on myself a lot more now, taking breaks, taking time to breathe, and that's been beneficial for me in the second year around.
Although touchy and often taboo, those in government must also be concerned about mental health. She was candid when I raised the question.
I had to look inside and make sure that I'm doing what I need to do properly, and I've been trying to consistently make sure I'm drinking water, make sure I get some exercise, be sure that I'm taking my vitamins, and slow down a little bit.
Colby-Davis first served as a senator in opposition under the last administration. Even with the political experience under her belt, 2 years ago she entered government as a novice minister. She admits it's been a roller coaster of highs and lows.
My low, I would start with, has been getting projects off the ground as fast as it happens in my mind. The high point, though, for me with housing is Renaissance.
Renaissance at Carmichael.
The September 4th cabinet shuffle has put Jobeth Colby-Davis in charge of the new Ministry of Energy while retaining transport, a portion of her previous portfolio.
When our news comes back from the break, a call for help. A young man is pleading for your assistance tonight as he battles a condition that is now affecting his mobility.
We bring you CONCACAF results from Guyana, and a couple of Bahamians are trying to get into the Major League playoffs. Don't go anywhere. Our sports is coming up next.
Nice weather outside the Our News studios as we reach the middle mark of the work week. Greg is back with more weather details when Our News returns. Stay with us.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those squeeze there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP-1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
Don't spend hours sending individual messages to your customers. Use SMS messaging instead. With Cable Bahamas Business Solutions SMS messaging, you can send personalized messages to hundreds or even thousands of recipients instantly. It's quick, effortless, and cost-effective. Plus, it ensures that your messages are delivered directly to your customers' cellular phones, guaranteeing higher engagement. Save time and boost your outreach with SMS bulk messaging. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having business in a box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves on.
Today's sports update is sponsored by Michelob Ultra, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
This is Our News. Welcome back. The national soccer team gets edged out in Guyana, and we update you on the only Bahamian coaching in the major leagues. Here's Tej Adley with a check on sports. Tej?
Thanks, Itai. Good evening. I'm Tej Adley with some sports to get you over the hump. CONCACAF Nations League play continued for Team Bahamas yesterday as they traveled to Guyana to play on their home turf. The Bahamas national soccer team was edged out by Guyana yesterday 3-2. Wood Julimus broke the stalemate 39 minutes in, scoring the game's first goal. Unfortunately for Team Bahamas, they surrendered a goal right before halftime before giving up 2 more in the second half. Julimus added 1 more goal in the 86th minute to make things interesting, but Guyana was able to hold out and come away with the win. With this loss, the Bahamas falls to 0-2 in the current window of CONCACAF Nations play. They'll have a chance to get in the win column on October 14th against Antigua and Barbuda. And while we're talking about wins, a couple of Bahamians in Major League Baseball need a couple more if they want to go to the playoffs. Both Anton Richardson's San Francisco Giants and Jazz Chisholm's Miami Marlins are in the thick of the battle for a National League wildcard spot. Richardson, the Giants' first base coach and the only Bahamian to coach in the majors, and his squad are 1.5 games back after a loss to the Cleveland Guardians last night. Jazz's Marlins are tied in the standings with the Giants, a game and a half out of the wildcard spot as well. Both teams have identical 74 and 71 records. And with only 2 weeks left in the season, both teams need to scramble to make up that game and a half or else they'll be on the outside looking in. That'll do it for sports today. I'm Tej Adley.
Still ahead on Our News Tonight, it's a story of a young man whose life drastically changed due to a condition that affects his mobility. He's asking for your help. And another nice day around the islands as we move closer to the weekend. Greg is back with more weather details when Our News continues.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. So you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just throw the squeeze there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP-1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it, a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
Don't spend hours sending individual messages to your customers. Use SMS messaging instead. With Cable Bahamas Business Solutions SMS messaging, you can send personalized messages to hundreds or even thousands of recipients instantly. It's quick, effortless, and cost-effective. Plus, it ensures that your messages are delivered directly to your customers' cellular phones, guaranteeing higher engagement. Save time and boost your outreach with SMS bulk messaging. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website.
Welcome back to Our News. Warm temperatures outside the Our News studios on this Wednesday. Wondering how the rest of the work week will turn out? Well, Greg is back with your extended forecast. Greg, what can you tell us?
The rest of the week should be nice. High pressure is going to remain in charge. Lee will be gone. And then, of course, those temperatures will once again start to rise into the low to probably the mid-90s. And then we see those heat indexes getting into the triple digits once again. First, a look at the tropics. We still have Lee out there. We actually have two hurricanes on the map, Lee and Margot. Of course, Lee is the closest to us, and that's one that's posing a problem with in terms of swells. Margot is still out there, but far out in the eastern Atlantic, there's an area that the National Hurricane Center is giving a very high chance for formation. This one has about a 90% chance. We'll continue to track towards the west-northwest and into the open Atlantic. Look like it's taking a beeline for Bermuda once again. So Bermuda, you guys are starting to see these systems. And of course, this system will be tracked over the next couple of days. Then there is Margot, still a hurricane, but that is going to meander around in the open Atlantic, not posing a problem for anybody. And then Lee. Lee is still a hurricane, 105 mile per hour winds, moving towards the north-northwest at around 9 to 10 miles per hour. Will continue to track towards it should remain a hurricane as it continues moving up and west of Bermuda and into the Canadian Maritimes, but the swells will continue to affect us for the next couple of days. So we're still asking you boaters to exercise extreme caution out there, and the beachgoers, we're asking you to stay in the waters. Speaking of that system in the open Atlantic, time frame for that, September 15th through the 17th, and if it does form, the next name will be Nigel. Boating forecast, small craft advisory. As I said, still asking you to remain in or very near port. Dangerous rip currents out there. Beachgoers, we're asking you to exercise extreme caution not to get into the water. Northwest and north winds at 15 knots across the northwest and central Bahamas. Seas 3 to 5 feet near shore, but they will be up to 10 feet offshore and along the Atlantic exposures in some moderate to large northeasterly swells. High tide will be at 7:51 tonight. Southeast Bahamas, your winds backing a little more towards the west and northwest at 15 knots. Seas running 3 to 5 feet near shore and up to 10 feet offshore in northeasterly swells. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, beautiful conditions for the remainder of the week and into next week. And of course, Lee will be gone and our temperatures will be back near the 90-degree mark. And of course, as I mentioned, those heat indices will continue to be with us. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Talia.
All right, thanks so much, Greg. Well, a young Grand Bahama man is in need of your help tonight after being diagnosed with a condition that's impacted his mobility. He's sharing how this condition has changed his life and why he's in need of critical surgery.
Back in 2019, I was working 2 jobs, Monkey Joe's and Agave. I started experience little pinches in my back, and I'll go to the hospital and stuff in Freeport, and they would just give me medications and stuff.
Meet 25-year-old Justin Albury, a Grand Bahama resident who is now living a harsh reality. At such a young age, he's in need of a hip replacement surgery because his bones are now fused together due to a condition called ankylosing spondylitis. He was diagnosed almost 5 years ago. Now Albury reflecting on the last time he was able to work.
I was taking some water to a table, and then my body shut down on me, where I couldn't be able to walk or move no more. So the bosses, they lift me up outside to carry me to the car so I could go to the run.
And from that moment, Albury's life changed. He then went to the United States to seek medical attention.
They told me that I have ankylosing spondylitis.
Although he tries to remain positive, he says as a young man, the situation is often difficult to manage.
I feel like I just putting a strain on everyone. Because I can't really do too much for myself. The doctor said if I could be able to do therapy and take medication, I'll be able to move and have some sort of independence for myself.
His mother, Katrina Bain, is now unemployed because she takes care of her son and has a full-time job while her husband is abroad working to provide for their family.
Sometimes, like I say, it be depressing to me, but I don't ever bring that around him.
But in every dark situation, there's a silver lining. Save More Drugstore in Freeport has set up donation boxes at each of his cash registers in store for Albury and also provided him with a 6-month supply of medication.
And this particular story, seeing such a young person with so much ahead of him, we just felt that we need to step in.
Now, if you would like to provide any assistance to Albury, you can reach out to his mother, Katrina Bain, at telephone numbers 813-9144 or 441-2094. All right, and with that, we thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.